Welcome to the 1334 podcast, where passion meets purpose in the nonprofit world. I'm your host, Blake Barlow, and each episode we dive deep into the stories that shape and drive nonprofits, exploring their why and the impact they make. Today we hear from Farmer Fredo, who runs Flint River Fresh here in Albany, Georgia, and surrounding counties. He is changing lives every day by providing farm-to-table fresh food for those in need. But first, a huge thank you to today's sponsors of this episode, TMG Market Group and Localist Coffee. What we do as 1334 Media is only possible because of organizations like them and individuals who believe in providing free media to nonprofits in need and telling their stories that otherwise would go completely unnoticed and unheard. If you yourself believe in that, feel free to visit our website, 1334media.com, and check out some of the work that we are doing right now. Now, let's hear a little bit from Farmer Fredo. Sweet. So how's it going?
Have we officially started?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll start right here.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. It's going pretty good, man. You know, it's a holiday season, just wrapping up. Seeing enough college for a lifetime times 3, and I'm good to serve, in the community as much as we've been doing over the past, going hard since Thanksgiving, really.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Cold season crops, eh?
Yep. Cold season crops, but good hardy crops. That's what you need for this time of year. Something you can make some soup with, something that can fill your belly, and something you can store up into the freezer pretty good.
Absolutely. So just to get started, what motivated you to start Flint River Fresh?
Well, what motivated me was, first off, Flint River Fresh, we came out of a project of the Flint River Soil Water Conservation District. They have received an urban agricultural grant, and they hired me to lead the urban ag project. But as we started getting involved in urban ag, we started seeing community groups, school groups that were looking at how they could maintain their community gardens. And so the program just kind of got birthed off of a grant. And as we dove into school gardens and community gardens, we just started hearing this conversation around food insecurity or food accessibility, and how in rural communities that there was a higher number of people that did not know where their next meal was going to come from. And so we looked at teaching people how to grow food as a solution for that, because we were already working with farmers. We were already working with our cooperative extension agencies that had all these resources about teaching people how to grow. And so we looked at it as an opportunity to connect people to farmers, connect people to extension agencies and some of our state agriculture agencies, but really come from a place of let's make it simple for people. Like I always say, super simple growing. And I use that background story because it started off from a grant, but the more we started engaging community, the more we started talking with people, the more that this became a solution that was community-based to address making sure that our neighbors had food to eat.
Yeah. Well, what's your background then? So why'd they come to you to
Well,
lead that?
I always get asked this question. I am a graduate of BYU. I tell everybody, which stands for Backyard University. As a kid, my grandfather had like a little quarter-acre plot growing up. I've always found myself connecting to being a servant leader. And it just was one of those things. Like I didn't go to ag school, but I would YouTube it up, read any book I could find. And then I was blessed to have an opportunity to do an internship at Cornelia Farms in Americas that allowed for me for about 10 years just to really dive into being a market gardener and a small scale farmer, because we were going there to supply food for their kitchen. They did a hot meal every day for the community. And then they had a program called Circle of Friends that supported seniors that were living in the Americus, Smithfield, Plains area, where they're kind of come together, do like knitting projects and things like that. But most of the ladies knew like my grandmother. So it's kind of like one of those things where I can grow some watermelons and give it to Miss Mary. Miss Mary used to babysit me, like that type of thing. And it was just diving in. And so the more I dived into it, the more I felt comfortable enough that I knew systems. And I was like the standpoint, like I didn't come from an ag family. I didn't come from a farming family, except for my grandfather having this little parcel of land. And so I'm oftentimes telling people, if I can do this and grow it, you can totally do this, because I am not the sciencey guy at all. I'm like, let's make it simple and make it effective, and let's just feed people.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I've seen some of the plots you have, and they're thriving, and all from. I mean, I learned all my stuff from YouTube too, but it's crazy that you get to lead this whole organization from that. That's cool.
Yeah, but it's a blessing, Like I always feel like I tell people all the time that whatever you like to do, just go for it.
Yeah.
Like don't get so caught up into what the box that's been created for what you want to do. Nah, go for that internal box that's in you and just go for it. And I feel like I say this to like my sons all the time about that. The world is a big library. And whatever you go for, there's plenty out there in the world that will help you along that journey to validate you, to help you answer questions that you might have, and don't be afraid. And the main thing is be comfortable with the fact that you might mess up every now and then. But the good thing is that you fall down, you can get back up and go back at it one more time. If you paid attention to what you did that one time when you messed up, the next time, just don't do that one thing. You'll see what happens. And that's all like my garden plots. And that's why we try to make them the same sort of size when we're working with people. The raised box are the same size, because we found that systems kind of remove some of the anxiety.
Yeah.
And it just makes it easier. It's like, hey, if I got to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's all I have to remember are those 4 steps, I can kind of keep doing that. Yeah. If I got to remember 100 things, that might be too much. But 4 things, like, I can do that. I can check my soil. Good. I can add some stuff to my soil. Good. I can get some compost. Good. And I can plant at the right time. Okay. I can do those type of things.
Yeah.
Not a problem. And then the 5th one, don't forget the water. Oh, no problem. Got it.
So based on you started, with your grandpa, and then you started learning more and growing and, using YouTube as you were brought on with that grant. So how have all of these experiences changed the way that you run Flint River Fresh?
Well, I don't think it really changed it. I think it validated the importance of partnerships and collaborations.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, as I talked about, where we were already working with like extension agencies. We were already working with conservation districts. We were already working with these agencies. And so what it gave was an opportunity for us to showcase our partners and what our partners are already doing. But because of the fact that people just like the genuine connection of knowing me, or knowing like, hey, I'm around the corner at 5th Avenue, it gave us like this opportunity to further partnerships. And so what it's done is it allowed for us to create new partners, kind of bring together entities that were existed like in their own separate spaces, but through Flint River Fresh, they're able to kind of work together and bring new partnerships, new collaborations and stuff together. So it's kind of like us working with farmers was what we were already doing. Mm-hmm. But then on one side, we hear about like a school system that's like, hey, we want to buy more local stuff from local farmers. Where are the farmers at? And we're like, hey, Flint River Fresh, we know some farmers.
Yeah. We
know some schools. Can we guys work together to bring
cool.
stuff into like the market space? And so like those opportunities started happening. Or you might hear about a group that's like, hey, we're trying to feed people on like the south side of Albany, and we want to give them collard greens. And so again, Flint River Fresh, we knew the farmers. Organization knew the people in the neighborhoods. So, all right, let's come together. You tell us what day, what neighborhood you want to come to. We connect with the farmer, bring it from their fields, give it away, things like that. And then also, just within our biggest thing has been lately in the community health space. So with COVID, we started hearing about, what we eat. Healthy eating was
Yeah.
really important in terms of like combating COVID.
Hmm.
And so we really dove into getting people more fresh food, teaching them how to prepare it, but also working with our community health spaces. So working with the hospitals, the family clinics, and telling them like, okay, you got patients that need fresh food. Well, we got fresh food. How can we get this to your patients?
Yeah.
And then they started to like us working together. So it was more about how we can use food being and making it more accessible for the farmer and what partners benefit from having this directly from the field to the table. And we
Yeah.
just like went gung ho, jump off the cliff straight into it.
So how have you seen like significant health impacts from that? I know you're mentioning COVID and helping hospitals.
And so personally, I think like the numbers is what the hospitals kind of collect. They collect
Yeah.
that data, but what gets me are these like these stories that people come and share with me because I'm out in the community or not. And so like, like recently had a gentleman that was going through like chemo. And so we would do all these giveaways. So I got to know him, got to know him, his wife, and their family. And so whenever we had a giveaway, he would always just like come. And so I got to know him. But he started like informing me about how the doctor started prescribing eating more greens, just eating more greens through his whole like chemo treatment. And so, a couple months later, chemo, all that happens. I get like a message on my phone, and it's this gentleman ringing a bell, saying like he's cancer free. So it's like those moments, or like, just this week during like the holidays, we're again giving stuff away. This lady's taking care of her dad. And trying to get him to eat. And so she gets, some of these greens, cooks them up. And she's like, Farmer Fredo, you got my dad eating healthy again. He's like, man, I love these greens. I love these big boy peas. And he like these stories that's related to food that kind of gets him energized and stuff
Yeah.
again. And so, like I said, I don't know the quantitative number, but on the personal level, those interactions you just kind of like just see about people like, man, this feels like it's a blessing to me. Or, even us like with our partnerships. So we did this thing during the holidays where people were giving away like toys, and they had like a family groups that would come by and pick up Christmas items. And in addition to that, we would give them what we call our fresh share, like box of produce. And so one of the coordinators sent me like this message of like this lady that was so happy to receive the toys, but how she was equally happy to receive like the box of fresh produce, because with her having like, 3 or 4 kids at home, being like a single mom, the price of groceries kind of being what it is, it was really hard for her to get like some good quality stuff.
Yeah.
And so when she got to the center to get the toys, and next to it was this box filled with collard greens, apples, cabbages, sweet potatoes, onions, and it was like just given to her without her even asking it. It was like, yes, this is like a blessing. And so
That's huge.
those little things there are just like what we're about,
Yeah. So that's cool because I know like you mentioned the guy starting to eat healthy again. There's something so different because we got some of the bell peppers from you and cabbage. There's something so different from getting something that's actually fresh as opposed to something that was frozen for months and then it's at Aldi or Publix or something. It tastes different. It tastes better, and it's cool to see like that these people are seeing that. 'Cause that's what matters. You could say 15 people, but 15 people is a lot. 1,000 people is a lot when you think about each one of those is a story.
Yeah.
And the story is what matters. And that's what we're doing here. We just want to share some stories.
Yeah.
And it's cool because like when you think about it, it's not just that one story. It's who else are they impacting? Their kids, their grandkids, their
Yep.
friends, like that's huge.
Yeah, it's a connection. And so even when we first started doing the things in the community health space, people are looking at like, oh, okay, what we need to do for that individual. But just to your point, Blake, it's like that individual is a father, is a son, is an uncle, is somebody's nephew. So there's a bigger connection, right? And so even when we do our boxes, we're not just thinking of that one individual. We're thinking that individual is going to go home.
Yep.
And anybody that's ever tried to eat healthy or try to get in shape, you just kind of know your family support base
Yep.
is really will help you maintain it, right? And so in addition to just like here's fresh produce, we started like this Fresh RX program in the community health space where we started doing cooking demonstrations. Because
That's
what we
cool.
found was that if I gave you a broccoli, that's fine. But if you only know one way to prepare that broccoli, then you're still kind of in your own little box, right? And so we brought in like a home chef like Jordan, who works for us at Flint River Fresh. She's like a home chef, so she loves to cook. And so we'll say, here's what's in the box. You go at it, do your own thing, right? And so she'll come back and have like a cucumber tomato based like salad that they can have for the summertime. She'll be able to take and like strip down, like some collard greens and kind of make it like a healthier like sort of mix for people to enjoy. And what we found when we had these wellness group check-in, by them seeing something that they were already familiar with, but prepared a little bit different. Like I remember her taking sweet potatoes and cutting them down and using them as the crust for a pie, for a quiche. So rather than using like a bread-based product, she used sweet potatoes for the crust for the pie, for the quiche. People like, what is this? You took one bite into a sweet potato crusted quiche that was Southwestern sort of style, with a little bit of like kale mixed in. Whew.
Dude.
Hungry right now. And so that was the other piece of like storytelling. It was like when we brought these people together that were participating in these wellness support groups, like everybody knew they all received the same box. And the opening conversation was, what food did you make with your last month's box? And everybody goes into the story about, they went on this website, found this recipe, or they found this cancer or this diabetes-based website, had all these recipes that were based for like diabetics. And then it was shared within this group and they became their own internal little like clique. Yeah. And then you saw by their interaction how their A1 levels started to go down. It was not so much about like that. It was about them being their own support-based group. It was like, okay, I got you. And then they would just share, connect, and then you see that their A1 levels go down. You see like the weight and stuff go down. Yeah. You hear stories about, we got together, went walking, together, physical active as a group. And it wasn't something that the doctor said go do. Yeah. It wasn't something, it was just them as people making a choice. And that's that community support. And like I said earlier, if anybody's ever tried to lose weight, get in shape, if you're a community and your family is not on board with it, it's the hardest thing to do because we all know they will bring in the good stuff, not so good stuff, but the good stuff because that's what they like.
So I have like 15 questions in my head now.
That's cool.
So like
you edit it part 3, 7, 10, whatever, no problem. You can come back later on and do another one, drop it.
That's cool because that's the community is not only what matters, but they saw that themselves and built the community themselves and started to, it wasn't you, That's really cool.
But I guess it's like what we talk about all the time. It's like our job is to sow a seed.
Yep.
Like I said, like all we got to do, I'm just gonna cast a seed. Whatever happens, I don't know. I'm just casting seeds. Yeah. And then if it creates a harvest, beautiful. But let me just share and allow for people to participate. It's like the same thing with, like our community garden, our school garden projects. Like the most successful ones are the ones where after we built the raised beds or after we planted in the space, our community group kind of like takes it over and allows for that space to be their space. Because that's what we really want. We don't want to be like, let us tell you what to do. No, we want you to go for it. Yeah. Like we'll be by your side. We'll help you because you know better than us what people you're trying to serve. You know better than us what people naturally want to get out the garden space. Yeah. And so the more you invest into it, the beautiful thing starts to happen. So it's like at our school gardens. So we have like this one school, like the assistant principal, she went all in. I mean, all into the garden space. And so like now they use the garden as not just a space, but they use it for like leadership development with the kids. So whenever somebody's coming to visit the school, the kids do a walk into the garden space. The kids would go harvest the things at the garden, serve it inside the cafeteria.
Cool.
They would take whatever extra they have and just say, hey, let's bless like the janitorial staff at the school or the other cooks and things like this. But it's because the assistant principal saw the space as more than just, oh, here's some vegetables. It was like, no, this is a space for these kids to learn leadership development. So they're able to walk you through the garden and point out what this is for, what they prepared for it. And that becomes a conversation piece. So now you have a third grader, talking to a congressman, and explaining, and it's a beautiful thing to watch, but it's just this open space that people have looked at it more than the work. Like a lot of times when people think of gardening, growing food, the first thing pops in their mind is like, oh man, that is just hard work. Oh, my back is going to be sore. Yes, we all see that. But also you can look at this space that this becomes a gathering spot for the community to come together.
It's an investment.
It's like a total investment in time, investment in resources. But the thing about an investment, you really only want to invest in something that you get a good return on, right?
Yeah.
Like you just don't want to put up a vending machine and it's always broke. You're never going to make any money. So look at that as this garden space as an investment in the hope of your community. So now you have something where when it's peach season or plum season or green season, that people kind of just come together and get it and go back their own merry way.
Yeah.
Or let's figure out how to make a community soup or something. I don't know, whatever.
And it's crazy how many schools have just open plots of land, like just green grass just sitting there that could easily be used to grow not only for the school, but the staff and the students.
Yeah.
I wish more schools were doing that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think the only drawback to it is schools are tapped. They're really stressed out.
Yeah.
And not stressed in a way they just have a lot of things to do. And so that's one of the things we've been looking at with Flint River Fresh and some of our partners is like, how can we support the schools by doing more of these initiatives? So like, how could we find partners that could, cover the cost of us hiring a couple more school garden coordinators that could be in support roles of these schools. So like I always told people, like my vision when it came to like the school gardens was almost the way when I grew up, every school had like a PE or art teacher, right? And so I was like, well, what if every school kind of had like a nutrition education specialist? Yeah. So it's kind of like, a person that was there to do the garden, do cooking classes, just those sort of basic things that the kids could kind of interact with to give the teachers added help, because I know when I first started school gardens, like if you're the science teacher, the math teacher, and you got state exams you got to prepare the kids and stuff for, you don't have to be, anybody that knows growing food knows that you have to watch that daily. And sometimes when it's testing, our gardens turn into turf grass, just like quick. It's like, well.
Have you thought about doing a recipe book, like releasing your own recipe book based on what you grow here in Georgia?
Well, we thought about it, but then we had all these partners that already kind of created those sort of things. So they already had like online portals that had their recipes that were like seasonal based. Like Georgia Grown is like a marketing brand of the Georgia Department of Ag. They had like a whole entire like shelf series that literally went season by season and identified like different recipes. So what we decided to do was rather than going and reinvent the wheel, it's like, well, let us just showcase this partner that's already has this tool. Yeah. So we look at more of those and we give them credit, of course, like when we are posted on social media, we've looked at creating like those little index card, recipe cards that we kind of give away. Yeah. That's what we actually did for our fresh fruit and vegetable prescription box program. Every 2 weeks when we did it, we would include like 2 recipe cards. That was cool. All based off of it. And so we've kind of looked at, we definitely know we want to do that. And again, we haven't want to do it on our own because it's kind of like, well, we've got all these partners that already has this stuff and they've already printed it, did all the graphics and made it nice and attractive. Well, why don't we just support them financially by buying theirs and including it as we give away to people and things like that. So that's got to be more of our methodology. It's like, well, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. And some of our partners have more resources than what we have. So let's share theirs and let them know that we want to partner with them more. So maybe they'll be willing to send us some more of those booklets to give away to people.
So you were doing a subscription box?
No, not a subscription box. We were just free.
Oh, really?
It was just like it was part of the program.
Really? So you kind of sign up and you get a
Like
free box?
it was signed up through. So the Fresh RX program, we treat it the same way you treat your medicine when you get it from the doctors.
Yeah.
So it was doctors that referred their patients, and we kind of had parameters on what patients we want to see. They had to have, been with hypertension, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, on and so forth. And so they would refer their patients to pick up boxes of produce. And that's just what it was. We had like a day of the week at a location that was agreed upon by the different, each of the community health partners identified a location that worked for them. We would bring the produce boxes and people would pick them up. And then once a month, some of them did a little bit more where they had like sit down. Some of them allowed for us they had a space that had a kitchen in it. So we would do like cooking demos. And so it was, but we didn't do a prescription program where people can pay in advance. It was really it still is ran through those community health spaces. Because again, with our capacity as an organization, we don't have like the capacity to be like, let's answer the phone, let's do, it's a lot to do with that. As I learned when I first started this whole process, but it's easier because our role at Flint River Fresh is still connected with the farmers, getting volunteers involved to help us make the boxes, and then the patients come pick up at those designated sites by our community health partners.
That is wild.
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
Because it's through the community health partners.
Really?
So we're not like going out, hey, we're Flint River Fresh. This what? No, we're not. We're not trying to be seen.
Yeah.
We love the whole idea of just being foundational, the roots underneath the ground that allows for everybody else like to blossom and do their thing.
That's really cool. Are you able to mention any of the health partners you're working with?
Yeah. I guess so we do a lot of stuff with Auburn Area Primary Healthcare. And so they have like branches like in 9 different like counties. Then we're also doing, of course, stuff with like Phoebe. So Phoebe's been like one of our main like partners when we first got started at Flint River Fresh. Like, so Phoebe's partnered with us in community garden spaces, on the Fresh RX spaces. Even when we're doing like some of our, they do multiple women's health fair, men's health fair, maternity expos related like to single moms, on and so forth. So a lot of those spaces allow for us to kind of come in and just kind of bring in nutrition, eating good, this is what it looks like. And so like those have been our partnerships that we've really been embracing. Yeah. And then we've also been trying to find like other avenues because there are different groups that are doing like these roundtable discussions about eating healthy, rural communities and stuff like that as well. And then we're also trying to, tap into like the early learning centers. So they're like early child care centers and things like that. And it's growing. Like I don't even know what 2025 is going to look like if 2023 started off like this and we're just going into this year right now with 2024. So it's a blessing.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing Flint River Fresh?
So this year, 2024, I think will be like 8 years.
Have you had any like crazy obstacles from the beginning to now?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think you're gonna have obstacles, and most of that is just learning curves.
Yeah.
So you kind of go from, first off, we're a nonprofit, 501c3, so there's just different things that we can and can't do.
Yep.
So learning what we can and can't do takes. I think that was like 4 years within that. And then of course we all had COVID. Like COVID came in and just shifted everything.
Yeah.
So like, originally we were just going to be education, teach people, education, create spaces, just teach folks. Then COVID happened and things just shut down. So you have to like look at yourself and really see where's your sustainability plan, what's your like focus. And so that's when we really started diving into like the community health space. How can we support our farmers on the ground? that really help define it. And so those obstacles as well. And then also you have the biggest obstacle is how do you financially, keep your nonprofit going?
Yeah.
So you have to either do it through like, grassroots fundraising. So, like convincing people that have never heard of you to make a donation. That's an obstacle. Like applying for grants that are competitive across like the nation. Like you're competing with people like in the state of Washington for like the same funds, the same idea. That's competitive, and then you just have like, just a, like I said, learning curve, like I'm old school. So like learning to sit back and create, like a strategic plan. Like, what is that? Like, oh, I got to do that now? Yeah, you got to do that. Or like learning how Robert's Rule of Order to conduct business for a board meeting, putting together a board. You're like, what is this? Like, but once you start to get these systems and understand how it works, it benefits you, but there's still obstacles, like I didn't think be able to have conversations with, like congressmen, with our like U.S. senators, to talk to people at the Georgia State Capitol and have all these allies. Because again, I'm just coming from playing in the dirt in my grandfather's backyard to feeding a neighbor down the street to, man, what we experience in Southwest Georgia is the same problem that people are facing through most rural communities throughout the United States. And so if we can create a platform that can be replicated and then it go out and share with others the simple things that we do, then I mean, just like cultural barriers are like is a struggle. The difference between like Atlanta and Albany struggle. So you ask a good question. I'm like, I have struggles all the time.
So talking about COVID, when you started to adapt during COVID, did that help you? Did that help the organization grow?
It did, because it made us, prior to COVID, I felt that we were scatterbrained.
Okay.
We were just like all over the place. We're doing gardens.
Too much?
Just like we had like projects here, we had like projects here and projects here, just because we're trying to build up capital. And so we were all over the place. Then COVID kind of happened, and it kind of just peeled back layers to you're just like, this is who we are, and this is what we do. And it was real simple because it was like everything shut down, but you still had people still needed to eat.
Yep.
We had restaurants that had staff that were looking for something. And so our board made a decision during COVID that we would do these produce boxes, and then we would like buy hot food from local restaurants. And we would supply them to first responders or people on the grounds with COVID. It was just like that simple of like, this is what we want to do. And so it took concepts that we were like toying with and said, nope, here's a clear defined lane. We can work with the farmers, make sure what they have in the field doesn't go to waste, and then we can find somebody that needs it.
Yeah.
Just that simple. And then we still had gardens going on the school grounds because it was like we had planted stuff, like in November. So when COVID dropped in February, we still had collards coming up, broccoli coming up, cabbages coming up, still had the work to do. So what we found is that you still had, at the schools, you still had janitorial staff that was still cleaning the schools. You still had people still cutting the grass at the school. And so we looked at, well, what if we took what was on the school grounds and just gave it to those individuals? And then it just became, well, let's look at every demonstration site that we have. Who can we connect to take this extra produce in a more structured way? So it was the janitors, people cutting the lawn. Then, of course, we found out there were like seniors that were homebound, that couldn't get out and about. And then it came off a simple choice of, we know farmers that got food. We have spaces where we're already growing food. Now let's think in terms of who can both benefit from what the farmers are growing and what we have in the spaces.
Yeah.
And now let's deliver partnerships that will make it more strategic to get it to those people, so we're not the ones having to be all over the place driving and dropping, driving and dropping. No, I can just take that to here. You got 50 people that'll show up, great. Take it over here, you got 15 people to show up, great. And it just made us very, very in sync.
Yeah.
So when we talk to people, it's like, well, what do? We connect people with farmers, and we show people how to build demonstration sites to get more fresh food in an underserved area that's supported by some community group on the grounds, whether it's a church, a school, community center, leadership group. Done.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So based off of, you started, everything was scattered, and then you started to adapt and change. So based off of your adaptation and changing over the past 3 years and seeing where you are now, where do you see Flint River Fresh like long term? Like not even this next year, but the year after,
So like long term, like I said, I hope to really see like an expansion of our footprint within like the school system. So I definitely like to see if there are means to bring on a couple more people to help on the grounds at the schools with our garden cafeteria program. And then also I look at more of an expansion of our youth engagement pieces. So as we're starting to work with our high school students, our FFA clubs, looking at ways to do more small scale urban ag related projects, but then also looking at how we can build agribusiness programs. So being able to show kids like how, not even kids, because one thing that did happen post-COVID was that we started a demonstration site at the Georgia National Fairgrounds. So at the fairgrounds year-round, we have a farm up there called a Starbucks Learning Farm. And with that, we have a partnership with the group that's called a Halo Group. They work with individuals with disability and autism. And so they actually come up to the garden site twice a week. They have about 5 to 6 that are like our garden crew. They manage the garden, they do all the weeding, they do the harvesting, and at the fairgrounds, they have a catering company called Cox Services. So what they grow on the fairground site is actually provided to Cox Services that has a restaurant at the Georgia National Fair. So when different activities, different events go, they're supplying people and they're growing. And so what I really want to be able to see is like programs like that get more recognition, being able to showcase here's a space that not only just for youth, but also the disability communities involved. And then also looking at how we can impact more of our rural towns, like you have Albany, but like how we can impact like a Smithfield, how we can impact a Plains, Georgia, like a little smaller town where there's still, like 1,000 people that actually live there, and they are like, 10, 15, 20 miles away from any sort of like grocery store.
Yeah, for real.
And so what we can do that's focused intentionally in those type of environments. And so really looking at that expansion, but then also we've been looking at how to grow our farmers that we work with and create, again, new opportunities for the product they have in the field, being able to bring it directly to people that need it the most, but then also helping them to get their products like in the bigger markets. So like the school system, taking their stuff and right into like the food banks, people that can really need it, institutions, on and so forth. So like you say, there's a lot, but big vision is like this big, huge space that's like trucks going everywhere, carpentry shops building like garden beds everywhere, big old composting machine in the back, dropping stuff off. So you ask me, man, I got, my brain don't stop. So
yeah, vision for days. That's cool.
For fields, I like to say I got visions for fields. Like look out an open field, I can tell you a whole lot of things we can grow, plant, harvest, you name it.
That's cool. That's exciting because I think based off what you've done the past 8 years, it's easily achievable. Well, it's achievable. I don't think anything that a nonprofit does is going to be easy.
I tell people, if it's easy, it ain't going to last.
No.
It's easy.
Especially not nonprofit world.
Yeah. If it's easy, it's not going to last, and you hit it on the head. Because nonprofit, it's a lot of vision casting.
Oh, yeah.
And getting others to believe in it, but I feel like end of the day, like I said, it became really clear from COVID that we knew like some farmers that were growing some good quality stuff, that were looking at like how I can feed the people around where my farmers based at, right? Yeah. And so I always love the fact, like even like today or the other day, people come up to me and they're like, "When did this come out the ground?" I was like, "Yesterday."
Yeah.
They're like, "Yesterday?" I'm like, "Yeah, yesterday." Only reason why you didn't get it fresh because like, they don't really start picking out the field until, 8 o'clock in the morning. So there's no way for me to get it to you at 10 if they started picking at 8. But I can get it to you like the next day and allowing for people to see that and then being able, like you were saying earlier, about the difference just like in taste, right?
Yep.
It's just like you can actually just taste like this really felt like it even smells like it was like a day ago. Like, this dude got me feeling like I'm out there in the field again. Like, whoa, this is crazy. But allowing that to be part of like the narrative that, like literally you can see our truck riding around and knowing that like we just picked this up and you can still feel the moisture, the coolness. Like you touch the leaf, you're like, it's still cold. Yeah, we just picked it.
So doing that for 8 years now, how has that affected you on a personal level?
Like I said earlier, it's made me again more appreciative of what farmers have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely made me more of an advocate for the farmer and what they experience and advocating for them. But then it's also made me very humble to the change that can happen by simply having like a space that people can go to, people knowing that you're equally invested in their community. And that's why, like you were saying earlier, like why you didn't know about this program, why you know about this, because we're not necessarily trying to get the shine. It's at the end of the day, it's like, what can we do to support somebody on the ground that's trying to put food in somebody's hands? What can we do to help any group that's like, we're trying to help out our less fortunate, give them a space. And so what's really happened over these 8 years is more of a confirmation and a belief that people still want good to happen.
Yeah.
Even though the world can be what it is, they still want to, just help out their neighbors, and people have a lot of pride in the fact that they can look out for the folks that stay across the street from them and really just genuinely know them, and so we kind of look at, even when we're like strategizing and planning, we're like, we'll sit down and, I just had like a meeting a couple weeks ago with like different like churches because we know we go out and do a lot of these food distributions and we're like saying, is there a part of town, part of this county that we don't have a church partner that we can like partner with that's in this area that we can share with them the same things that we might have did on the east side or that we've done like in downtown Albany that they could replicate. And then to develop these models that, again, we could go to a Smithfield, a Plains, some of these smaller towns like a Preston or whatever, again, that doesn't quite have what Albany has, but has people that genuinely care about one another and willing to, spread the word like, hey, we got the truck is coming today with some good stuff. Y'all show up here to pick it up. That's all we're really like striving for.
So what advice would you give to people that have been listening to this podcast this whole time that want to start a community organization like what you've been talking about?
So the first thing, like I said earlier, was that partnerships help. Like I tell people that, whatever your idea, whatever your concept is not designed for you to hold the weight of it all by yourself. It's designed for you to share that ideas with others. And you'll learn the more you share it and more that you just believe that people genuinely want to help support you and help it grow, the more you'll see happens, and I say that because I think like sometimes because of raised in a competitive culture, everybody wants to be the Super Bowl champ. Everybody wants to win the World Series. Everybody wants all this, but you always forget all those are teams competing for that goal.
Yeah.
So it's a cliche as it says, teamwork makes the dream work. So if you're starting a nonprofit on your own, think about what resources it take to do the service that you're looking at. So for me, my service was I want to feed people. So if I want to feed people, what do I want to feed them? Well, I want to feed them fresh stuff. Well, where do you get fresh stuff from? Oh, you get it from the farmers. And then just by talking with the farmers, you just find out, what do you need help with? Well, I need help with taking it from the field over here. Oh, I got you. I can do that. But releasing yourself to the universe, to the plan, and allowing for you just to be a vessel.
Yeah.
And just genuinely be there to be like, look, I got you. I'm here to support you. I'm not here just to do my agenda first, because I believe that if I support you, whatever's supposed to happen for me is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then you just find like other allies and other resources. So again, and I think too, a lot of times with like nonprofit work, it's not profit driven. It's more about, I would say it's like it's heart driven. Mm-hmm. So it's the thing that, yes, the same mindset of somebody starting up their own business and trying to strive to make millions on top of millions of dollars, the same sort of like hustle, but the outcome is a little bit different, because it's like what we said earlier. It's like I'm more impacted by the gentleman that can remember us giving them greens to help with their cancer, or the young lady talking about getting her father stuff to eat again, or the fact of watching these third graders talk to congressmen about what they have in their garden space, or watching folks in the disability community sit up there and like and take stuff to this restaurant and kind of explain, and just looking at how much beauty happened by the simple fact that I'm like, oh, I'll show you how to plant a seed. Like, that's all it was. Like, yeah, I'll show you how to plant some collards. No problem. And off of that one idea, like, you know, like I was driving the other day, like when I first started, I had a Ford Taurus. And so I had like a Ford Taurus, just driving around. I used to throw compost in the back. My kids call it like the dirt mobile. Then I moved up to like a minivan. So I was like, I'm balling. So and like now I have like a pickup truck. And now we actually have like box refrigerated trucks.
Wow.
So
cool.
You look at from 8 years of starting with the Ford Taurus to like this past Thanksgiving, me having like 782 like collard bunches in the back of this refrigerated truck, and we're literally serving the community. Wow. And again, it's like I can remember like those days. I can remember like those same farmers like, yeah, I remember you used to ride up in that little old gold looking Taurus. Now, man, this is wild. And then people working there like, yeah, I do remember you riding in like now. And so, but it was all about being available to be used. And like, I don't want the glory. I don't want the shine. I just want people to know like there's folks that you don't know that's just genuinely looking out for you. And that's all it's about. And so when I think about nonprofit work, it definitely is something that has to be dear to your heart. Because again, like I can go from the very first time I got started at Cornelia with the people in the circle of friends and thinking about them, knowing my grandmama, to like everybody like I see that drives up, they remind me of somebody I kind of knew that probably hung around with my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunts and uncles. I'm all looking at them like, y'all probably don't remember me. I was like the little kid that was eating the penny cookies, but I got y'all. Let's go. Like you remind me, yeah, don't worry about it. I got you. And that's why I have passion for those little smaller towns, because a lot of times it's just like good people that just don't have the means. But hey.
How does somebody partner with you? You're talking about all these partnerships. How does somebody become a partner?
As strange as it sounds, Blake, it's like as simple as a phone call and an email. So most time people will send like an email to us at like info@Flint River Fresh, or like this past like holiday, I think I had like 4 churches that reached out to me because they knew another church. It was just really? Oh yeah, I got your phone number from like Pastor Ken. Da, 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 da. I was like, oh yeah, that's my buddy. Oh, I got your phone number from the people at Great City because you do like this Saturday service. I'm like, oh, that's my buddy. And so a lot of it is just telling somebody what you want to do and connect it. And sometimes like I'm always amazed at how many people will just message us like on Facebook and say, hey, I'm such and such. I'm in Valdosta, Georgia, and we're trying to do something. Can you help us? Like, all right, yeah, sure, no problem. And that's just how it starts, you know, like us going down, like we have like this year, 2024, like I'm going to speak in like Orlando, Florida.
What?
You know, just like, yeah, we saw what you're doing with the schools and want you to come down and tell us at our farm to school conference what you do at the school.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm like, okay, no problem. No problem. And so back to connection, like social media has always been a good driving force for us. And that's really been like our big driving force, because I'm trying to get websites and stuff like that up to speed, but it's a lot easier to take a post, pop it on Instagram, and Facebook and people like it and share it, you know, and then again, partnerships. Like we did this thing with the young Marines here in Albany, and the young Marines of the nation shared it. And all of a sudden you just get all these likes and people like from California and other places like, oh, this is great. This is service. Da, da, da. I'm like, where are you from? It's like I'm looking at that. There's this GoDaddy commercial, and the guy talks about he never knew about like dinosaur like Kansas, but once he opened up the website, somebody offered it. It's like I've never heard of this town a day in my life. Oh, but they're liking our stuff. They want to share our stuff, and that's the beauty of a genuine movement, you know. And then like I said too, been really like thankful for how the faith-based community has really been engaged, how the disability community, senior community has been engaged, but then also just like the relationship that we just built with like our farmers, you know, like they are just genuinely like my wife cracks jokes. Like I don't answer my phone after a certain time of night, but they're like two farmers I'm always on the phone just talking with. They're I call them like Captain America and like Batman. Like that's my nickname. They're like superheroes to me. But that's what it's about, man. It's just like genuine, you know, just like I told my wife, I was like, yeah, but I gotta do this thing for Blake. Who Blake? I said, you remember the first videos I did? Like the bucket video. Do you remember like the video I had about like the school garden with the crazy music going on? I said, that's Blake. Oh, yeah, you need to do the thing. It's like, yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah, my whole goal behind this and this podcast was just that I can hopefully inspire other nonprofits that are, I know personally with 1334, like there have been times where I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
This is hard work because nobody sees the preparing for board meetings, doing the board meetings. No one sees the countless hours of trying to figure out how to get funds to do what you feel like you need to do, you know, feel what's in your heart and your vision for your organization. Nobody sees that, like, and so I wanted to, one, inspire other nonprofits and hopefully get people to see you and what you're doing, and each organization that I get to interview, hopefully finding just a little bit more about these businesses, these organizations, because I think what's really cool about this format is we can just sit here and talk, you know? We can sit here and talk for 30 minutes, an hour, however long we want, and somebody can listen to it. Whereas I've done so many documentaries. Documentaries are amazing, and they're fun, and they're entertaining to watch, but it's hard to get as much information as you want, where, like, what you talked about in the first 30 minutes, it could have taken an hour in a documentary to say all that, whereas somebody can listen to this. They can even speed it up if they want to, hit 2x on podcast app and, you know, listen to it in 15 minutes and get as much information as we can give them as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited and super thankful that you decided to do this with me and be the first guest. The guinea pig, even though this setup is terrible.
But I think the other side too is that genuinely having somebody on the other side of the mic that you know, like, that cares about your cause, you know, that's not just like, yo, I see your work, I see your grind. I just need you to pause for a second so people just know you.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of like doing something like this, is like, as busy and chaotic as my day can be, that you're like, hey, let's pause, let's just have some water, let's just slow down.
Yeah.
And through it is all those points that you made, you know, and I think that's going to be the benefits of 1334 and this podcast. It's like all these amazing, dope organizations that kind of just get to pause for a second and just breathe and reflect on what you do. Because sometimes when you're in that hustle, in that grind, in that move, you're just doing it. Mm-hmm. And when you can sit back and reflect on it, it goes back to that question: what do you see the vision 5 years, 10 years from now? You know, more opportunities like this, just to sit down and just share a story, bring some water, just talk to somebody, just share and share. So I thank you for allowing me to be the guinea pig.
Yeah. Thanks for doing it.
I think I've always been like a little guinea pig. Like, we want to try this thing and just make videos for nonprofits. All right, come on.
Yeah, you were one of the first.
Like, no problem. Let's do it. We want to go show you how to do Christian social media. All right, no problem. Come on. Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing stuff. So again, I thank you, and I thank the Creator for allowing for you to feel comfortable enough just to walk it. And he looks out for his kids. That's how I always look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just in closing, how can people find you? How can people follow you and find out more about what you're doing?
All right. So in case you didn't know, this whole time, my name is Fernando Jackson. I'm also known as Farmer Fredo. The executive director for Flint River Fresh. We are a nonprofit based out of Albany, Georgia, and you can find us through social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, our main two platforms that we use. We do have a website, www.flintriverfresh.org. You can always just shoot us an email at info@flintriverfresh.org. And that's like the main ways of like just kind of connecting with us. And so hopefully those that are listening, you feel inspired, you feel like I'm about to go get it, make it happen. And if you're trying to tap into the community food accessibility work and looking at ways to get more fresh food in people's hands, we're already kindred spirits. Yeah. So you might as well just give us a call and see how we can collaborate and partner.
Absolutely. Is there any way somebody can join your organization as far as volunteering or donating?
So we're always open for like donations. Again, you can reach out to us like info@flintriverfresh.org. Volunteer-wise, we do a lot of our volunteer projects through our partner agencies.
Okay.
Because we're a small staff, and if anybody that's ever did volunteer days, you need a lot of support for volunteer days. But when it comes to volunteering, we mainly do things around like big holidays. So we do things around MLK, Earth Day tends to be like our really big two that we kind of push. And then we do stuff, of course, throughout the year where we're making produce boxes that we're giving away. But we do a lot of that with our local food bank partners. So you can always reach out and stuff like that. As far as our school garden spaces, most of the volunteers there happens through the schools themselves. And that's just because they have a vetting process of who to bring onto the school grounds versus us taking on that responsibility. And then in terms of our demonstration sites, you could definitely reach out to us about the Georgia National Fairground, the Jimmy Carter Boyhood Farm there in Plains. We manage that garden site there. The Sunbelt Ag Expo in Moultrie. So we're always looking for people to kind of help us as those sites need a little bit of TLC.
A huge thank you to Farmer Fredo for joining and taking his time out of his incredibly busy schedule to come sit down with me and pause for just a moment and reflect on all of the amazing things that he has done and is continuing to do through Flint River Fresh. And also, thanks again to our sponsors, TMG Market Group and Localist Coffee.